Hey guys, it's Channel Weird. I'm Clyde Lewis. If you're having a Halloween weekend, happy Halloween. I mean, I think last night was kind of Halloween. Today's Halloween. Tomorrow's really Halloween. And then we have the Day of the Dead, which again is another Halloween. So when you have a Halloween weekend, it's a lot of fun, you know. And we had a hard time with Ground Zero last night, so we had to kind of bail. But hopefully on November 1st, we'll be able to get you scared with a little Halloween-y type show for sure. But in the meantime, it's a beautiful day here in the Pacific Northwest, and we're very happy to be here for Channel Weird, and especially today because special guest I have on the show is a good friend of mine, writer, all-time good guy. He's I don't know how to even describe Brad Olson. I mean, the guy is a giant in the field of writing about esoterics and some amazing stuff. I'm just going to bring him on. Brad Olson, welcome to Channel Weird.
Hey, Clyde, thanks for having me on. It's a real pleasure to be on Channel Weird.
Yeah, and we're going to get you on Ground Zero too, obviously, because you are amazing, and I haven't seen you in a while, and it's good to see you now. It's good to be with you, and so let's talk about this book you've written. What's the book called again?
It's called Beyond Esoteric: Escaping Prison Planet.
And when I remember the title now, and I remember the Prison Planet, what you called it, Prison Planet, and it reminded me of what Philip K. Dick said about we're in this iron cage, we're in this prison planet, and there's so many things that are going on behind the scenes. And I got to tell you, in fact, I was saying before the break, I got a chance to read over some of the book, and I believe it is a must-have, at least hard copy, in everybody's library because it contains every single aspect and every single detail about what we'd call the Great Conspiracy.
Well, thank you for that, Clyde. I really appreciate your voice and how you see these things because you talk on them so much. And for someone like you to understand the big picture here, and that's really what this book is, it does go into so many different chapters and subjects of the big picture of all that has been withheld from us. In fact, on the back it says all that has been hidden will be revealed. And your show, Ground Zero and Channel Weird, have been so good at opening people's eyes up to this. And hopefully my compendium will be this book that will also help in that awakening.
But it's so detailed. I mean, how long did it take you to make this book? Because I was looking at it and I was thinking to myself, to actually sit down and to break it down, it's almost like it's a history compendium. I remember doing a show one time. There's random history and there's conspiracy history. And usually it's a conspiracy history that measures up more so than random. I mean, some people go through their lives thinking that everything happens randomly. But we know, because Franklin Delano Roosevelt once made a comment, he said, if it happens in government or if it happens, it's planned that way. And so, to look at life, sure, things are random. Sometimes random things happen. But when you start seeing the details, you start filling in the blanks. I mean, right now we've got conspiracy theorists out there that create the most god-awful, insipid conspiracy theories. Even the mainstream media does. They don't tell you that, but they do. But when you have definite history, definite facts to back up what is going on behind the scenes, this is what you've done. So how long did it take you to write this book?
This one took me 6 years to do.
Wow, you can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell.
It's book 3 in the series, the esoteric series. There was Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses, then Future Esoteric, The Unseen Realms. Both of those books came out right after 2012, and this book just came out at the beginning of this year, and it's already going into its 4th printing. So it's selling real well, and it's reaching a wider audience. And like what you do, Clyde, I mean, I feel this is our obligation to help people understand this very thorny issue of what's going on in the world right now and helping them make good decisions.
Yeah, we certainly need another book like this because, I think a lot of people forget, and I'm beginning to realize this too. I mean, I've been at this now almost 30 years. And, I remember starting out back in the 1990s talking about this stuff. And back then it was crazy. All this stuff was crazy talk. Now it's pop culture. Now it's boiling up into the mainstream, although it's not being talked about in the mainstream with regard to the legacy media. It is basically, there are other people out there that give the lowdown and talk about it, but people like Bill Cooper in the past, and Robert Anton Wilson, and all these other people over time. I think Hoffman, all writing these books about not only the synchronicity of it all, but the idea that something or someone or some unknown force is guiding, or at least determining how we go, what our fate is. We don't make choices anymore. We're not the ones making the choices. Our leaders are making the choices. They're not really leaders. They're basically puppets for a grander scheme. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. And the book starts out with neo-fascism, the new fascism that we find ourselves in. Remember when we were in school, we were taught that fascism was the joining of government with corporations, and this was Mussolini and what Hitler did
Mm-hmm.
in those fascist
Mm-hmm.
countries. Now it's the opposite. Now it's the corporations which have controlled the governments of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see it quite clearly with this rollout of these mandates and this new police state we find ourselves in, where a
Right.
lot of people are now losing their jobs if they don't follow along. So, how did it get to this, Clyde? And this is what I examine in the first chapters of Beyond Esoteric, this new fascism, and how we got into this mess we're in that would really make George Orwell roll over in his grave if he were seeing what's going on in the world today.
Right. I mean, and even if you look at Animal Farm, for example, I mean, a lot of people, they go to 1984 and they say, "Well, this is what was going on in 1984." But you look at Animal Farm as an example, as a metaphor for where we are now. You look at what Napoleon did, the pig. He basically created health reform to basically start his tyranny. He said that the animals cannot eat the apples and they can't drink the milk. You can't eat the apples, you can't drink the milk. So basically, you can't eat this and you can't drink this, but we can. You have to get the vaccine, but we don't. You have to wear the mask, but we don't. You do this and we don't do this. We are the leaders and we don't have to do this. We'll wear our masks in front of you to make it look like we're doing what we say we do, but in secret they don't. They don't follow their own mandates. They just want to, rule us and dictate to us what we're supposed to do.
And the great classic line from Animal Farm is, all animals are created equal in the beginning of the book, and then at the end, but some animals are more equal than others.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. They're working it that they don't play by the same rules that they're telling us we should play by.
Right. And it's funny that they get through the sheep through health. And I was noticing today as I was driving into the studios, if you listen to the radio or if you watch TV, okay, you listen to the radio and you watch TV, it feels like we live or we're in this widespread health prison, because everything on the radio has to do with check your fever, get your vaccine, get your flu vaccine. Here's a new drug for you. Very horrible side effects, but it's a new drug. Everywhere you look, it's either a drug company selling something, what are you doing to fight COVID? Wash your hands, keep distance. It's like, it's like, I don't know. It's like a prison saying, it's time for your medication. Please line up for the medication. It's time for this. Please line up for that. It's terrifying.
Nurse Ratchet. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We live in the cuckoo's nest type of thing. I mean, it's true. I mean, it's just, I think people really need to pay attention to what is going on in the media, because it's a death toll report every day. It's a calamity report every day. It's telling people you need to take this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And people don't realize that if they're coercing people, this is what it is, it's coercion. If they're coercing people to get this medical treatment, what medical treatments are they going to require for other people? Like forced abortions, maybe in order to curb population, they'll ask men to be either, get a vasectomy or something in order for them. I mean, the slippery slope is there, and it's been there before. I mean, you even write in your book about eugenics. You write in your book about how, eugenics programs started here in America, and then everybody, remembers Hitler and Mengele and all these people for being infamous for doing these eugenics programs, but we were starting these. I mean, our eugenics programs were the envy of Hitler and Mengele.
And influence them and their thought in many ways. And of course, I cover this in the fascism sections of Beyond Esoteric. You know, to control the message, to control the narrative, is far more important than just about anything else, because they've got the money, they've rigged the printing press of controlling wealth, they've got it all locked up. But what they do have to do is keep us in this very narrow confine, what I describe as a prison planet. So their narrative works on us. And also, hearkening back to the Nazi era, is
Mhm.
repetition. You tell a big lie, you tell it often enough,
Mhm.
and you repeat the big lie, and pretty soon it becomes truth. Once
Mhm.
again, another message right out of 1984 by George Orwell that we're seeing in real time right now.
I find it interesting that the media coins that phrase, "the big lie," when they talk about the elections and election fraud, and it's like, they read Hitler too. I mean, they read Mein Kampf. They read what Goebbels had said, and they're using it just like January 6th is their Reichstag fire. They continually say that January 6th this and January 6th that. That's their Reichstag fire moment. It's a way to rally the troops against others who are politically different than they are, and and yet for a summer and more here in Portland and other places around the country, we had cities destroyed, police
Yeah.
precincts burned to the ground, people rioting in the face of a pandemic, not being condemned by the media, not being condemned by leaders, not having charges pressed against them by the attorney generals. I think it was like Bill Nadler who said, "Oh, this is all a hoax. It's a myth. It's not happening." But here I am. I mean, I don't even want to go downtown anymore. I mean, I'm close to downtown by working in the studio, but still, I'm not in downtown proper, because when I go downtown and I see my city and what's happened to it, all spray painted, destroyed, windows broken, boarded windows, I'm thinking, where's our leadership? Our leadership has neglected their duty, and they want the police. What was it? Seattle just lost some 600 police officers because of the COVID mandates. I mean, why is it? And it's interesting. Why is it that people don't understand that people who censor you and have been the oppressors for some time, how are these people allowed to do what they do when we know, and from when I was reading your book, the oppressors and the censors were the bad guys at one time. Now they're the good guys. It doesn't make sense.
Everything gets inverted, Clyde. That's a classic weapon of the occult, to take what's good and then to invert it into what's bad. And of course, where is the justice for all our cities being burned down? You're right there at quote ground zero in
Yeah,
Portland.
I
You know
know.
it, and you've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
Bob Woodward, the great journalist, well, he was great, who came out with Deep Throat and the whole Pentagon Papers and exposed that in the 70s. He just wrote a new book, and it starts out with January 6th and the insurgents on the Capitol. And I mean, they get to people after a while, Clyde. And I
Right.
really have to hand it to you for being really a pillar of truth and sticking to your moral ground and really speaking what's going on here and not being compromised, because they will try to get to us in any way they can.
Well, see, what bothers me is that there was a time in my life where you could say that I was a classic liberal. And it's, a classic liberal in the sense that I was more libertarian than anything. And I still am in reality. But the problem is, I can't identify with this extremist oppressive view and giving an opportunity for psychopaths to actually distract us as they're doing right now. There's just so much psychopathy that's going on in this country right now that we're giving the psychopaths, we're giving them the wheel, and we're saying, let's drive this car. Let's hope it doesn't drive into a canyon and kill us all. It's just, and people are following it. I mean, they don't use common sense. They don't have the time, I guess, to think about their futures. They don't have, I mean, especially when they're told they don't have a future. I mean, I think they call this incursion, the incursion process, where it's like this, like you say, making everything a verse as opposed to making it work, straight ahead and plan for the future and think ahead. But they give the opportunities to these people who, like, for example, there was something the other day that I heard that PETA had said that they don't like the idea of calling the bullpen in a baseball game the bullpen because pens are cruel to these bulls and they should call it the arm, what do they call it? The arm barn or something like that. And I'm thinking, why do we even give the time of day to these people? And why do we even consider what they're saying? Because it's just insanity. Why is this something that we have to discuss? It's not. It doesn't help us in the long run to sit and be pithy about these issues that really don't matter.
Well, once again, it's controlling the narrative. It's bringing us information that is really counter to our growth and what we need to know. Look, we used to turn on the news to try to be informed.
Mhm.
I can't even watch it these days. It's so ridiculous. It's celebrity gossip and all these mind control tactics to try to steer us into a certain direction. And it's only gotten worse, Clyde, to the point where people are turning it off
Yeah,
and moving over to the alternative media
right.
as they should, and getting a real perspective from that.
Well, see, and we run a danger here, though, and the danger I feel is that everybody who rejects the legacy media turns around and says, "Well, the alternative media's got to be the truth too." They say that's the truth. And I worry about that because we find not only people that are in the alternative trying to hijack the narrative, but we have another force in the legacy media that hijacks the narrative. And so I find myself, and this is why I find your book so amazing, because I'm sitting here looking through it and I'm going, this is like, basic 101 reading for everyone who needs to know what we're up against. And I think that's why I was telling you earlier, I said, I hope I can get a hard copy so I can go to bed with it every night because
This
it's
is
so.
it right here.
Oh,
It's
thank
coming to
you.
you, Clyde.
Thank you. I was looking it over in the E format and I'm like thinking, gee, if people could just sit down and ponder the hard work that's gone into this book and read that this stuff is going on and knowing that it's credible, it's based on fact, the research is sound. And like I say, every 30 years or so, or every 25 years or so, we see a generation that knows nothing about this. And I worry. I definitely worry that there aren't enough people out there that are going to tell the story. I mean, I remember back when Art Bell was on the air and he was doing this. He was talking about it, and some of his stuff was entertainment, purely entertainment, but other stuff he was trying to deliver. And then, you start seeing other people that are getting involved, and you worry about whether or not they're going to have a foothold or whether or not they're going to be shut down. And and here I am, I'm pushing 60 now, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm getting older. I'm hoping there's people that are carrying the legacy, and I hope there are books and things that will remind people of how we got to where we are, and how if you educate yourself and understand where we are, then you could probably go back and hopefully grabbing onto the nostalgia of America, we could get it back on track. Right now, I've told people, and I fully believe this, the America we live in now is a simulation. It's not the real America. It's a simulated form of America. Democracy this and democracy that, but democracy doesn't exist. It's like you say, it's this neo-fascist control, and the plan is the Great Reset. We know this because they talk about it all the time. Build back better, Great Reset. Why do you think? Excuse me. Why do you think that Biden's meeting with the Pope and he's meeting with the UN, he's meeting with the G7? Is because they're getting ready to make their plans to get this budget through, and then it's going to redistribute all the wealth. It's going to allow for this outside control from the World Economic Forum, shutting down the banks, attacking the banks, and then going to a cashless society. That's what they've been talking about for the last year.
And now we're seeing it in action.
Mm-hmm.
And you're so right, Clyde, because those who forget the lessons of history are doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the repeating of fascist states, and they're taking pages right out of the Nazi Germany playbook.
Yeah.
Here, I mean, it's to people like us, it just seems so obvious what's going on here, and we just are aghast at where this is going.
See, I'm thinking it has a lot to do with history. I think the guys that didn't pay attention to history are the ones that are following along and just playing along. But for those of us that are students of history that have done the research, we know where things fell. And like Mark Twain says, it rhymes. It's rhyming very well. And we're trying to figure out just how it's going to link next, because our intuitive nature shows us how human behavior in history goes. Brad Olson with us today on Channel Weird. We'll be back with more of this discussion right here. Don't go away. On the phone with me is Ronnie from getthetea.com. Hey, Ronnie, it is the tea that makes you go, I know this because I use it. My favorite is pomegranate. What kind of flavors are there to choose from with this wonderful tea?
You can do pomegranate. You can do just the straight, which is real good. And also we have a mint, a peppermint. People really love that one too. And we have a couple new flavors on the way, which I will not discuss yet, but they're coming.
You know, a lot of people don't know that peppermint is a very, very good supplement to keep the stomach happy. It relaxes the intestines, and once again, it makes you feel better because it allows them to move around and get that stuff out of you, that bad stuff out of you.
Absolutely. This is a digest mover. So people have a hard time digesting stuff, or you get something stuck, or maybe you're a real heavy meat eater. The tea is wonderful. That's why it's taglined, the tea that makes you go.
If I want my life to change and get the tea, where do I go to get it?
Getthetea.com. That's getthetea, TEA.com.
Fantastic. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com. It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain, and the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
It's a well-known fact that controversial talk show hosts have recently been censored and even banned on the internet by corporate and political interests. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. And in order to counter the suppression of information, we've decided to create our own private digital playground called Aftermath. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, research groups, documents, and a news aggregator. In addition, we're hosting other Ground Zero friendly podcasts like Conspirafact with Wes and Bill, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, Pair Awareness with Mr. Gates and Isaac Weishaupt, Opposing Perspective with James Ponder, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, and several more shows. Mobile apps for Android and Apple are available too. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month. And don't forget to check out the yearly specials, including the Friends and Family Pass with one main account and 3 sub-accounts. Sign up now by going to aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media. Welcome back, Channel Weird. I'm Clyde Lewis. With us is Brad Olson, author of Beyond the Esoteric, The Escape from the Prison Planet. I find it disheartening sometimes where I see the literal dumbing down of people, literally with the media that we absorb. No one really wants to do the hard stuff. They don't want to do the analysis. And I think that's why your book is so valuable, is because you've done the analysis. And, we need to have more people actually sit down and say, okay, well, this is where it is, without sounding like some, spiritual guru, because I know that, there are plenty of spiritual gurus that come and go, run of the mill on Oprah. But, we're dealing with something that's a little bit more hardcore than fluffy butterflies and how everything's going to be all peachy keen fine. We're going through a cycle of not only calamity and catastrophe, but we're also going through a cycle where the technocracy wants to starve us to death, literally. And not only with food, but with knowledge. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I would agree. And we're seeing the supply chain breaking down. It's all by design, Clyde. We're seeing so many things, these forced mandates on people. If they don't want to lose their job, they have to go along with it. These are things that should have never happened in a free country, in a free world. But when you give the power of the printing press making money and so much more to this wealthy elite, let's call them the cabal, they have the ability to start controlling governments and what they do. That's why this whole concept of the neo-fascism is so prescient for today, because these things did not have to happen, but they are happening for a reason, pre-planned reason.
Right.
You can go to the World Economic Forum. They have this, it's like a wagon wheel with all these spikes that go into all these subjects, 200 layers deep right after COVID started. And now it's like 250 layers deep. You can't put a website together like this on the fly and have a vision of what the world is going to be. This Build Back Better and the Great Reset. I mean, come on. This was a pandemic from the start.
Well, and yes, it's something that they took advantage of. They saw a silver lining in it. And as you say, it's like 200, the layers of the World Economic Forum and their control. Their window is between now and 2030. They're pushing so quickly. And I was talking the other day about how if you look at like science fiction stories, you look at V for Vendetta, that happened according to the I guess the literature on it. It happened in 2020, and then you look at Soylent Green, that happens in 2022, and then you look at another fictional story about Year Zero, where all of the Luciferian satanic controllers of this planet all come together to bring into the fold this leader that is supposed to be like, with lack of a better term, I mean, the marketing term for all Christians would be the Antichrist. But they bring this Antichrist together, and immediately they call it Year Zero because they don't want to call it Anno Domini anymore, because it's the year of our Lord. And so it's like that happens in 2022. And I'm thinking next year, as hopefully as COVID goes away, it's going to be all about climate change. Obviously, it's all good. And that's the thing, is that the problem that I have with climate change is not that I'm not noticing the weather's different. I'm not noticing that we have bombogenesis every time we turn around, or a cyclone bomb or whatever, which just hit the California coast and hit us too. I don't have I have a problem though with they put everything labeled as climate change when they're actually geoengineering the planet. And I don't think, and you cover that in your book, talking about geoengineering. And the minute you bring it up, they immediately shut it down. Now, why do you think that's so?
Because it's happening, and once again, it's inverting. I did a video. I rode out to the San Lorenzo Bridge here in Santa Cruz during a lapse in the storm of this bomb cyclone last Sunday.
Yeah.
Barely able to get any audio. I had to put on some script so people could hear what I'm saying or read it. And I said that you cannot have an honest discussion about climate change or global warming without talking about geoengineering.
Right.
And look, Clyde, you and I spoke at the Geoengineering conference a few years ago in San Francisco.
Yep.
We really made a great connection then. And isn't it amazing that there are still people out there that don't see it? It's almost like you see the lines in the sky, but you don't make the connection.
Right.
The next day, there's not a single one.
Right. They don't understand that, and that's the thing, is that the government, and this is what they do, they cleverly rebrand things. It's like the UFO is now the UAP.
Right.
And chemtrails are not chemtrails anymore. And in fact, they never were. They dismissed chemtrails. But stratospheric aerial injections, or whatever they call them, the idea that they inject sulfide or sulfides into the air and they drop them as trails. I mean, John Brennan, who was the former CIA leader of the CIA, he called it that. He says, we're very interested in the use of these stratospheric injections. No, it's stratospheric aerosol injections. The idea of dropping aerosols on areas. Did you know what they did in New York and what they're still doing? No, wait, they've stopped doing it because I think the due date was the 19th. So from the 18th to the 19th, they have been filling the subways with gas in New York to test what would happen if a biological threat was ever levied in the New York subways. Now, you know as well as I do, because you and I have talked about this together, that back in San Francisco, they basically used the fog to deliver Serratia. And people still have it to this day. And I'm shaking my head going, who gave the right, who signed off on the idea of doing a gain of function exercise in New York when they've been doing gain of function exercises to bring about COVID? People don't figure it out. They don't get it. They don't understand that their own government would no sooner poison them, render them unable to have kids, call them, literally starve them to. People don't even know about how Henry Kissinger's proposal in 1973 was to starve the Midwest, and that if they starved them, then people would not procreate. And because they all are these Malthusian killers and lunatics and psychopaths that are running the world right now.
And we talked about that at the Geoengineering conference, that they sprayed San Francisco and people were getting also Legionnaire's disease, but nobody was ever held accountable. Hey, look at Tuskegee.
Oh, yeah.
They did black people in the 1930s. Once again, nobody was held accountable. Clyde, I quote you in this book because you have been so good at researching yourself. And I have a big block quote from Clyde Lewis in here from what we were speaking about at the Geoengineering conference. And so, but what really gets me about everything, including the propaganda and lying to the people and the spraying, everything they do to us is actually legal. They have passed laws that allow them to do that. And I do have those statutes and laws in the Geoengineering chapter and Beyond Esoteric. So if we don't call them out on this, if we don't have any kind of group discussion, they're going to keep doing it, and it's going to get worse.
Right. And like I say, you need to be aware of what they're labeling it, because if you say to somebody chemtrail, they'll immediately write you off as being a kook. But Prince has talked about chemtrails before he passed away. Several other people. I mean, Lana Del Rey has a song about chemtrails. they see them, we see them, and we know what they do. We know that they're loaded with sulfites and they're loaded with aluminum and barium and everything. And they're there to steer storms. They're there to force multiply storms. They're there to make us weaker and sick. And in fact, it was amazing to see how these storms hit the coast and how they were steered over certain areas and how they dropped, rain to take care of the drought problem. I mean, what they're doing is they're manipulating the weather. How many times? I swear, we have had in the last 2 years, I would say, about 8 different cyclone bombs where the millibar measurements drop below 900, which actually are above, almost pushing 1,000 millibars of low pressure. And I look at that and I say to myself, those are Cat 2 hurricanes. Those are Cat 2 hurricanes, Cat 1 hurricanes that are forming. They're called extratropical storms, but they're forming in the Pacific. They're forming over Denver, Colorado. They're forming over Arizona, of all places, one of the driest places on the planet. And we have enough moisture to create this atmospheric river to dump water all over Texas in the Midwest.
And let's not forget about the HARP machines too,
right?
Which can actually steer these systems where they want to do it, where they create these big high pressure domes over California, bringing us a drought. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're going to nail you with this bomb cyclone, which in a way was good. We need the water and it put out all the fires that were remaining.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't get hurricane force winds in October. We don't. And we don't get this volume of water where it is just coming down. It was over 3 feet of snow in the Sierras.
Right. Earlier and earlier, we're seeing snowstorms in these areas. I know that Utah got hit, I think, with 18 inches of snow, and they got it, I think, September 27th, 28th. And it just seems like every year the winter comes earlier for some parts of the country. And they say, oh, this is normal. This is normal. It's not normal. And it's never been normal. I mean, and they can all attribute to climate change, but they control it. What makes you think that they can't control it? Because what if we just all of a sudden surrender ourselves to climate change and surrender ourselves to that money? They're just going to stop the weather being bad altogether? It's like a miracle, right? Brad Olson with us today on Channel Weird. We'll be back with more Channel Weird. Don't go away. It's a well-known fact that controversial talk show hosts have recently been censored and even banned on the internet by corporate and political interests. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. And in order to counter the suppression of information, we've decided to create our own private digital playground called Aftermath. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, research groups, documents, and a news aggregator. In addition, we're hosting other Ground Zero friendly podcasts like Conspirafact with Wes and Bill, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, Para-Awareness with Mr. Gates and Isaac Weishaupt, Opposing Perspective with James Ponder, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, and several more shows. Mobile apps for Android and Apple are available too. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month. And don't forget to check out the yearly specials, including the Friends and Family Pass with one main account and 3 sub-accounts. Sign up now by going to aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain. And the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com. On the phone with me is Ronnie from getthetea.com. Hey, Ronnie, it is the tea that makes you go, I know this because I use it. My favorite is pomegranate. What kind of flavors are there to choose from with this wonderful tea?
You can do pomegranate. You can do just the straight, which is real good. And also we have a mint, a peppermint. People really love that one too. And we have a couple new flavors on the way, which I will not discuss yet, but they're coming.
You know, a lot of people don't know that peppermint is a very, very good supplement to keep the stomach happy. It relaxes the intestines, and once again, it makes you feel better because it allows them to move around and get that stuff out of you, that bad stuff out of you.
Absolutely. This is a digest mover. So people have a hard time digesting stuff, or you get something stuck, or maybe you're a real heavy meat eater. The tea is wonderful. That's why it's taglined the tea that makes you go.
If I want my life to change and get the tea, where do I go to get it?
Getthetea.com. That's getthetea, TEA.com.
Fantastic. Welcome back to Channel Weird. That's getting into the music here. Brad Olson with us. It's time to escape beyond the esoteric. Escape the prison planet. And we're so glad to have Brad on the show. You know, I know there's a lot of hope in your book, but there's also a lot of truth, a lot of hard truth. And I actually see the next, well, from now until 2030, I see it as a turbulent time for this country. I see a number of things happening that Americans are going to, I mean, at least Americans like you and me are going to see these things happen, and we're going to be completely befuddled and flummoxed over it. I think a lot of people are going to wake up to the fact that whatever deals were made behind closed doors and in the back rooms are going to reveal themselves. They're not going to make any sense. And when people's comfort levels are jeopardized, they're going to rebel. What do you think of that?
That's right. There's an old saying that Americans won't do anything until they finally feel the pinch.
Right.
And I think we're finally feeling the pinch.
Right.
They're certainly feeling it in Europe. And look at these demonstrations and protests are tens and hundreds of thousands of people strong in some of these European cities.
Mm-hmm.
When American people wake up and really get upset by all this, it's going to be like that here in these cities. But until then, I keep asking the question, how did we get here? How did it come to this? How did we allow this neo-fascism to gain such control over this great country? Just like what we're seeing in Australia right now. I've been to Australia and I know Australians. They're a free people and they're going through police state there right now too. So they're obviously targeting the Western countries right now.
Right.
Maybe the other countries are pretty easily controlled, but we're the harder to control, and that's why it's stepping it up
Well,
game right
the development is this stakeholder capitalism, they call it. What it really is it's capitalism on a leash. It's corporate fascism.
now.
There's going to be a move for socialism all over the world. And the thing about socialism, what's really interesting, I've said this before, and Rob Davenport, who's a Canadian friend of ours and runs Aftermath.media, we both said at the same time, it was the most hilarious thing. Somebody asked about socialism because, of course, he lives in Canada and I lived in South America for a while. And we both said at the same time, socialism is fun till it isn't. And it's true because everybody's going to go, wow, with socialism, I get this and this and this and this. And then one day you wake up and you realize, I don't have any reason to do anything. I don't have any reason. I mean, I have to pay all my bills. I have to, the bank's going to take care of that for me. I'm not going to be able to have cash. I'll be renting everything I have. The government will have, and that's the way it is. I mean, when you're in South America, you get a check and you have to go to the bank. And then they do something called a review of your puestos, your bills. And they say, okay, pay here, pay here, pay here, pay here, and all goes back to the bank. And then you come home with what's left. And that way the government doesn't go broke. That's the whole thing. Is the government will continue. And see, this is why, and I warn my listeners too, I say to them, this is why people like Klaus Schwab and those who run the Economic Forum are going to go after they're going to cyber attack the banks. And then they're going to come back and they're going to have this utility that's going to be a breakthrough utility to prevent this from happening again. And everything will be token. We're living in a tokenized society where you're going to have money that has an expiration date. You have to spend it by this amount of time, and they're going to control it just like what they're doing in China right now.
Or how about the World Economic Forum? You'll own nothing and be happy by 2030.
Your safety will be mandatory.
Who do they think they're talking to? It's just
I mean, how does this not sound like a dictator? I mean, when I hear like Joe Biden say, "My patience is wearing thin," I keep thinking to myself, now, if you did that in the voice of the Emperor from Star Wars, "My patience is running thin, young Skywalker," I mean, everybody would go, "Whoa, that's evil." But no, they don't do that. It's like he gets a pass. And I look at that and I'm like saying, okay, so we traded one dictator for another dictator. And it's because this guy gets a pass because the media loves this guy, even though his ratings are in the tank. And every time you go to a sporting event, you're either hearing, "Let's go Brandon" or something else. And it's like, do people get it? I mean, I don't think people are. I hope people are getting it. I hope they are.
Well, they are getting it. And this guy, Klaus Schwab, he's like the new James Bond arch villain.
Oh, yeah.
Type. He's totally delusional, thinking that people are going to go for this.
Have you seen him in his Count Dooku costume or whatever it is? Yeah. Oh, my God. He's wearing this huge brooch and he's like wearing this thing. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's like this smock and he looks like the high priest of some evil satanic cult. And he's like, "We will do this, we will do that, we will." I'm like going, God, do people see this? Do they know what it is? It's like a repeat performance. It's like, screw your freedom. Yeah, okay, screw my freedom. We don't need freedom anymore. What's freedom?
He's even got the Dr. Evil, get up.
All he needs is the skinless cat, and we're there.
Yeah.
It's like we need. So this book is amazing. I think everybody should have it in their libraries. I really do. And I'm not saying that because I love you. I'm saying it because it's awesome. But okay, so how do people get this book? I mean, they've got to get it for sure.
Well, it is available everywhere. I want people to support their local businesses. So go to your local bookstore and have them order it for you. It only takes a day or two. It goes through our distributor and gets there quick. Of course, it's the big retailer named after a jungle in South America has them. But if you go to cccpublishing.com, that's our publishing website, any orders that go through that website, they go through my office and I'm able to sign copies for people. Mm-hmm. So you can do that way at CCC Publishing.
I just want to say hello to everybody today that's tuning in. We get greetings from Brazil today, Brad. We're getting greetings from Atlanta, Georgia, London, a lot of people chiming in today. So, this has been the most response I think we've had in a long time over a guest because, like I said, people need to understand how important and vital this book is to your library. If you want to have an education. I mean, it's going to be a lot to read. It's going to be a lot to swallow. It's a big whopping cudgel of conspiracy history, and it's important that we read this. It's important that we understand this, because there are a lot of books that have come and gone, whether it be I put it up there with Behold a Pale Horse.
Wow.
I remember when I read that from Bill Cooper. I remember reading that from Bill Cooper. It changed my life. And of course, reading David Icke's books changed my life. But this book is, once again, for some people, it may be academic, but it's going over the fine tuning that you need to understand the history, to understand why, to understand who's responsible, how this is going on, and how that we've been had because we don't pay attention to history. We don't have our intuitive side. We need to cultivate that intuitive side in order for us to escape this prison planet.
And you're a part of it too, Clyde. Here's a nice block quote from you in the book. Thank you for all that you do as well. You've been a great inspiration to me and one of my go-to sources for information. If I need to find out what's going on new in the world, I love tuning in to Ground Zero and hearing your voice. It's like an old friend just saying, here's what's really going on in the world. And, you know, we're all in this together. That's what people of the world are going to have to find. Even your Brazilian listeners, Europeans, Australians, we're really all in this together. So when they struggle in those countries, we're struggling here.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really, the knowledge is power, that this war ends, and it is a silent war with quiet weapons, when people wake up. It is the Great Awakening. And for what you do and for what I do is our contribution to helping people understand this dilemma that we find ourselves in.
I think people need to understand too that this should be a missionary effort for everyone. In other words, we testify about our religious beliefs, we testify about our spiritual backgrounds, we testify about all that, but we also need to testify about what's important, and that is our freedom. We should not allow ourselves to be enslaved by these groups. And I'm not saying, hey, let's go out and make a war. I'm saying that we need to have the revelation before we have the revolution.
That's right.
And no one, I mean, people are all going around coming up with their various false flag theories and all these other things. But what does that do? It just confuses the issue. We need to keep our focus on I guess we could call the academic side of what we're doing here. It's not just coming up with ideas out of thin air and on a whim. And that's why, again, I have to recommend this book, Beyond Esoteric: Escape from Prison Planet. And the reason why is because this, as I was looking it over and reading some of it today, it is a focus, it is a view that if you read it, you will become educated and you will understand that what Brad did is it's a 6-year writing of all of this information. You can tell he put a lot of work into it. And I think that everyone should get this book. Everyone should get it. Like I said, I'm waiting for my copy so I can go to sleep with it. It's so important to me. It really is. Brad, thank you. You're important to me too, Brad. Thank you so much for being a part of Channel Weird. Either you're going to come to Portland or I got to go back to San Francisco. I miss you.
We need some hang time again, Clyde.
Yes, we do. We need some. It was one of the greatest vacations of my life hanging out with you, for sure. Thank you, Brad, for being on the program today.
My pleasure.
Okay, that's another channel. I hope you guys have a great Halloween. It's a long Halloween weekend. For me, it is anyway. And so enjoy Halloween. Get out. Have some fun. After all, it's what's Halloween's for. Then, of course, Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us on Channel Weird. Thank you all from all over the world who have tuned in today. I really appreciate your input. Take care.
Execute Order 66.